won't stop.
Thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman, and I have a really cool guest today that I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes. But before I do, I wanted to go in a little bit and talk about just how I'm feeling about things. I have another podcast, so I'm going to do a little cross promotion. It's called Listen Up Girl, and Listen Up Girl is an LGBTQ plus news podcast. And I usually do 8 to 10 stories every episode. The episode's usually 10 minutes or less, unless there's a big news day. Sometimes it will go up to 15 minutes, but usually not. And I now love doing that podcast. And I'll tell you why I love doing it. And I'll tell you why I almost stopped doing it. So let me first talk about the stopping. So I was doing this news, I think once a week, and then it went to twice a week. And you know, there's so much news out there about the LGBTQ plus community. And, you know, whenever you Google and you're looking on social media and you're looking at everything that's happening in the LGBTQ plus world, not just in the United States, but worldwide. So if you think about, you know, where same-sex was legalized in a couple of countries in Asia this past year, where Japan is not going to. And then if you think about all the things happening in Europe, Russia's so anti-gay. And then you have the United States with our current administration that there was 617 bills that were trying to pass that were all anti-trans. And, you know, at the state level, they're trying to do anti-trans stuff. And, you know, it bothers me so much that there's so much focus on hurting transgender people when they are less than 1% of the population. And what are they doing? They're doing nothing. They're living their lives. They're living their authentic lives. And people want to stop that from happening. And I see transgender people as very brave people. In fact, I see them as someone that has the courage that they had to come out and be who they are. That means they could have went from being, you know, born as a man, and then they have, you know, slowly or maybe more quickly in some cases, have transitioned into a woman, or a woman who has transitioned into a man. And think about the bravery that takes for someone to go out in public as the sex that they know they are inside, but the world sees them as something else. I mean, you got to really admire that bravery. And so my news podcast was going great for a while. And then all the negativity in the news, because I couldn't handle it anymore. I'm just like, I can't, everything I'm reporting is negative. I felt like I was putting out the negativity. And I kept saying in my podcast at the beginning of it, I would say, I'm so sorry that I'm putting out this negative news. And I'm sorry I couldn't find any positive stories today for the LGBTQ plus community. And I would say that, you know, like I said, I was doing the show, I think twice a week at that point. And I would say it almost every episode. And I would search for something positive, and I just couldn't find anything. And so I took a break from it, I think for 3 weeks or something. Or I would do maybe one every 2 weeks just to kind of keep it going, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to give it up. Like, I enjoyed doing it, but then I got a DM on Instagram, and the DM said, Zach, I love your show. I love your newscast. It really helps me feel more secure because I know what's going on in the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you for doing this. And then I got a comment like on Spotify or Apple Podcasts that said, I really love Zach's news. He doesn't need to apologize for saying that there's so much negativity in his news. It's the news, and you're reporting the facts. Keep doing it. We need it. And then I'm like, okay, well, that inspired me. Then I got an email from someone that said something very positive around the same thing about how much they enjoyed my news. And so I'm like, all right. So I started doing it again. I was doing it twice a week. And then there was so much news coming out. I started doing it like 3 times a week. And then I started doing it, 5 or 6 times a week. And the reason why is because I kept getting messages or DMs, and people found me in my personal Facebook and were sending me DMs about this and emails through the website. And what was really nice is that people were saying, I listen to your show as I get ready in the morning, and I don't have to go searching for LGBTQ plus news on Google and going through my social media feeds. Like, you give it all to me. And as I'm getting ready for work in the morning, I listen to your podcast and kind of listen to the news. And so it just kind of like, I feel like I'm informing people, and it just made me feel really good and inspired. But the world right now where we are it's so deep. Everything feels so off in a way. And not to like be negative, but I'm going to circle around and tell you why I feel this way and why I'm saying all this, because the world doesn't feel wonderful right now. But I have hope. I feel like something good is coming soon. And I don't know what that something is, but I do feel like we're going to have a change in 2026, and it's going to be for the positive for the LGBTQ plus community. And I think we're going to have a better 2026 than we did at 2025. And I don't know. I think if we all believe that and we all start manifesting that in some ways, I think it could be really powerful if that happens. And if we all just have those positive thoughts, so put out that positive energy this year and just keep pushing it out there. And now let me circle it back to my guest today, because he is super positive. His name is Jake, and I found Jake, I think, on Instagram. Is that how I found him? I don't know. I think I found him on Instagram. Yes, I did. And he has a thing called the QT Library. And I think he had a post or something about it. And so I went in, I started reading about the QT Library. And basically, it's a library that will be in Boston. And QT stands for queer transgender. And what I loved about this is that they have 3,500 books already collected for this library that will go somewhere in Boston. They're hoping to find a location and open up officially in the summer of 26. So, 6 months or so away from the time I'm doing this intro. And it'd be great if they opened during the month of June for Pride in Boston. That would be pretty phenomenal. And it's not just a library. It's a place where they want to have a place where, not a community center, but they want kids to be able to come there and get books that, because there's a lot of book banning that is happening, but they want kids to feel like trans youth or LGBTQ youth to come there and feel comfortable coming there. So it's kind of substance free for that reason. They could have knitting classes there. They could have talks there. It's a place for people to meet and stuff. And it sounds so amazing. And, I donated some money for it, and I want to volunteer for it and help out. And, Jake is like, they have people all the time volunteering and doing stuff. So listen to the episode. Jake is a phenomenal person, and what he's doing with this group of people. I mean, it took a village to get to where they're at. And it's been 3.5 years, I believe, since they've been doing this. And we need more people like Jake and the people that he's working with on this board at the QT Library, because he's trying to do something really fantastic for the LGBTQ plus community. And I live in Boston, so I'll get to benefit from it, which is amazing, because we need something like that here. And check it out. Listen to Jake's interview and leave a comment and tell me what you think. Thanks for listening. Hi, thanks for joining me in the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. Today I'm really excited because I was scrolling through my Instagram and I found this awesome new project that's being put together called the QT Library. And I immediately reached out to Jake, who is my guest today, to talk to him about it. So welcome to the show, Jake.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
So for people hearing about the QT Library for the very first time, how would you describe it in your own words?
Absolutely. So it is an effort by a group of queer and trans folks to build a brick-and-mortar queer and trans library and substance-free community space for the LGBTQIA plus community up in Boston. So I just think about it like any public library branch that you know and understand to be a an open, warm, welcoming space, physical space where folks can check out books, use a laptop, talk to a librarian. It's exactly that, except the collection is authored and curated by queer and trans folks. And it's
So you won't
for,
have book bans like they're doing in Florida then?
yeah, so no book bans here. No, we're really proudly against book bans of any kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a curated collection of up to, we're hoping to get to about 5,000 books in the collection.
Wow. Amazing.
All by
So-
queer and trans authors or featuring queer and trans rep.
So when you kind of think about somebody walking through the door for the first time, what do you hope that they kind of experience?
Oh man. I mean, I think here's the best way I can describe it. So when I was, like 12 or 13, I was like a library kid at my local public library. And I remember, there were just a handful of queer books on the shelves. And I knew that this was sort of like who I was and what I was looking for more of. And I remember this sense of like secrecy, like a sense of like having to be like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm looking at the Magic Treehouse books, but actually I'm looking at like David Levithan's Two Boys Kissing. And oh my gosh, that's like so incredible. And so I think what I'm hoping is that this will be a space that is sort of the opposite of that, where you can come in and immediately feel a sense of acceptance and a sense of being able to be your fullest, most open self.
Yeah.
I also think like, I love libraries. I love the quiet and the quiet warmth of a library, but I also think there's something about like, we're going to have librarians who are wearing their most fabulous fits if they feel like it on that day.
Yeah.
Like it's going to have a little sense of whimsy and wonder and color and joy. And so, which is not to say that libraries don't have that.
Yeah, but this sounds more like it's a more welcoming space, and it sounds like it could be a fun space and a place to meet the community and stuff, right? I mean, it sounds like not a community center, but definitely
that's a little bit part of my thinking there is I think I love a community center. Like big shout out to all the community centers that are doing that kind of work. Boston does not have an LGBTQ community center. It has a wonderful youth center, Bagley, who have been amazing partners for us. But yeah, they don't have an LGBTQ center. And sometimes what I struggle with around LGBTQ centers is that there is a sense of ultimately it's just a building and you fill it with the community, and that's what makes it rich and wonderful. But for me, what's so exciting about a library is like, what a library is. You know what it is to talk to a librarian. You know what it is to like sit on a cozy chair and read a book like tucked in the corner that you didn't have to pay for. And I think that's been a helpful like design element for us, just to say like, this is a little bit more than just a community space. But the thing that I would also add that's I think kind of important is that like Boston is a city that is expensive and space is at a premium. And what we sort of came into this work 3.5 years ago excited about was the possibility of giving for free space for other organizations who are not necessarily housed in a particular location to like do their work, what they're already doing to support queer and trans folks, whether it's like crafts or social services or anywhere in between, to do it in our space. So a part of this project is like having a reason to move into a physical space so that we can share it more widely with the community.
Tell me why it's so important for kind of queer and trans people of all ages to be invited to this or to have this space for them.
That's a great, phenomenal question. I mean, this sort of the personal moment there is like every relationship I've had with a queer elder or a queer adult when I was a young person has been so deeply meaningful. And I have heard, I think, from many of those folks that having relationships with younger folks in the community who are in many ways able to live a little bit more out and proud and open from an earlier age. Now, there is so much to be said about the importance of intergenerational connection. I think there's a lot of self-siloing that happens in our communities. And part of that is, it's who it's who you have access to someone's apartment or someone's like a nightclub or a specific kind of space. And I think what I love about a library that I've always loved all about a library is that you can go in and have that intergenerational connection. And so having it be a space of targeted intergenerational connection, I don't know, I've never experienced it. I've had like moments of brilliance. Like, I don't know, I feel like I've had, I've like sat in the front lobby of the community center in New York City, the LGBTQ community center, and like, I don't know, I love to people watch. And so I'll
Yeah.
like sit there and people watch and I'll be like, oh my God, there's like, you know, older folks who are going to like queer ballroom lessons in the like, in the back room. They're doing like ballroom dance or ballroom like voguing, like any and all of the above. And then you've got like Whisper coming in to like hang out and play chess with each other. So I've had tastes of those magical moments, and I just like want more.
Yeah.
Forever.
So is that kind of what you see kind of happening day to day, like in the QT library, and also, so I checked out your website, and I want to talk about that because you guys got a lot of cool things happening on the website. We can talk about how people can donate also, but
Yeah.
also I want to, you have like in January, you have like Stitch and Bitch event that you're doing online. So do you kind of see doing those things in person at the library?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like it's important to say, like, we've been in existence as an organization for 3 years. And because we haven't had a permanent physical space that's open to the public, we've had to turn to partner organizations for physical space programming and had to do a lot of virtual programming. And we have found that people fucking love, am I allowed to curse? People love that. Love virtual programming. So we will keep a lot of the virtual programming when we open a new space. But yes, we're really like trying to do a little bit of everything and do it kind of well. And I think that actually speaks to like the nature of the community that's come together around the creation of the library, which is to say that one thing that we have always said from day one is that the QT library, above all, is a seed of possibility. It's an idea that like I can get behind with my full chest and say, like, this is a thing that's going to happen. It's going to exist in the world. How would you like to be a part of that? And for some people, it's like donating $10. And for some people, it's like, oh, I have a box of books in my basement and I would love to share that with the library. But for some people, they're like, okay, my friend is a woodworker and she would love to build you a custom bookshelf. And some people are like, oh my God, I really love Dungeons and Dragons. And like, I'm like an incredible dungeon master. How would you like it if I came in like once a month and like ran a D&D game? So all that is to say that like it is a thing that has come together quite literally through the work and contributions of all kinds of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Like there's probably at this point like 500 plus people who have supported the work in some way.
Wow.
Beyond like giving and like giving their time, giving their expertise, their energy. It's just sort of been a massive like web building thing. Anytime anyone asks me like, so what is there to do? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like literally anything that you can imagine to build a library, we have needed folks to do from absolute, like starting from literally zero. I'm like, okay, you want a program? Like, let's bring it into the world. Here, how can we help you bring that program into the world? Oh, you want to be a person who like puts plastic wrap on books, and that's the only thing that you want to do, like the protected plastic. We'll find a way to train you to do that. Anyway, that's a rambling way of saying.
No, I love it. I mean, I just love this so much because you're bringing people together, number one, and it's a space for the LGBTQ community, and that's, Boston's a safe place for this community anyway. But it's so nice. Mostly, it's a safe place, but it's so nice though to like have a place that you can go as a queer youth and go there, and you just totally feel safe. And I think it's just a phenomenal way to meet new friends and stuff, or who knows, maybe meet the love of your life. You never know what you're going to meet, but um, so take me back to the time whenever you like had this idea kind of come up, and who did you pull into it to kind of help you pull this all together, and why Boston? That's my other question.
Okay, lots of questions there. I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay.
The first like personal, incredibly selfish reason was that I was at a job that I was not happy with.
Okay.
And I was feeling a little bit like my soul was not being fed on the daily. And I then the TV show Heartstopper came out,
Okay.
and I am such a dork. Are you familiar with
Oh yeah, I
Heartstopper?
watched it all. Yeah.
Right, good. So, like, I don't know, there was something about watching Heartstopper and like crying and crying and crying and taking my friends and like having the, I'm being like, okay, we have to like sit down and we're gonna watch the first 3 episodes. I know I've seen them 40 times, but like
Yeah.
we have to do it. I had this moment where I was like, if I could share Heartstopper and things that felt like Heartstopper with people for the rest of my life, like that would be it. That would be the dream.
Yeah.
And then because I'm so silly, I was like, what job would I have to make that possible? And then I was like, obviously, I would have to be the gay librarian at the gay library because,
Yeah.
like, duh. So it was that combined with a tweet from one of my friends, James Kennedy, who was like, the tweet was like, we need libraries that are open after 6 p.m. because
Yeah.
I want to hang out in a library and like get some work done after 6 p.m. I don't remember exactly what the tweet was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially, the sense of like, we need community spaces that are open later hours in the day or all hours of the day that are not just like bars and clubs and restaurants.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. So I reached out to one of my friends from grad school, Karina, and we got ice cream. And I was like, what if we start up a gay library? How crazy would that be? And she has a background in we went to education school together. And so we connected. And then she brought in Emily Talley, who is an incredible organizer, activist, and also works in the legal field and has an incredible background. She came on as our first executive director. I brought in my friend Maddie Deming. And so the four of us, essentially, for the first 9 months of the existence of the project, we met on Zoom every single week, twice a week. We like talked and talked and talked and wrote. We really were like, my nightmare situation was that we magically make a library appear out of nowhere and that the community is like, we didn't want this. Boo hits.
Yeah.
And so we sort of devised a really, really slow, long timeline to like build community investment and support in the project. And we did the other like fun little thing that it's like sort of integral to the starting of this project was that I created this absolutely bananas, like 15-page Google Doc that was beautifully like designed and formatted. And it had questions like, what should a library have? Like, what are some examples of libraries that you really love? You know, these are some examples of programs. And then we held these like Zoom parties where we would all get on Zoom and we would all log on to the same Google Doc at the same time. And I would play some jazz and like everybody for 20 minutes would just like brain blast. And then I would be like, okay, everyone, now go through it again and comment on everybody else's things.
Yeah.
Through it again. And we had at the end of that, like massive documents filled with ideas and resources and connections and like things to think about. So after that 9 months of like building, researching, getting input and feedback and sort of drumming up interest, we picked Boston. There's a lot of reasons we picked Boston. I think infrastructurally, it's a city that like does need lots more queer infrastructure.
Yes.
The original founding team for the library was 2 people in New York and 2 people in Boston. And we were meeting on Zoom the whole time. And we knew sort of as a part of this community investment thesis that we had to pick a city and be in that city and like properly be there. And so once we chose Boston, we've never looked back. All the 100+ volunteers who work on the project in various capacities are mostly Boston based.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it was that Boston has this history of private libraries. And it has a history of private libraries that often were exclusionary. And I think what was exciting to us was this idea of building on that tradition, but in a way that wasn't exclusionary and it was sort of like expansively open to the public.
Yeah.
Even though it had a particular focus. I think also this physical infrastructure piece was really important. Like we noticed that there were a ton of Boston groups that were like the Boston like craft group or the Boston like queer chess group. And we sort of came to realize that a lot of them were like meeting in someone's home, meeting in whatever back room of a library that they could find. And we were like, what if we could be that sort of like centralizing force for this?
And also, you know, you never lived in Boston, right?
I've lived for 5 years in Boston. Well, I lived in
you did? Yeah. Okay. What did you think about the whole Boston gay scene here? Or the gays themselves?
You can't. That what kind of question is
Well,
that?
I'll
That's a
tell you what
wild question.
I'll tell
You
you what
start.
I'll start, yeah, because I'm very open about this in other episodes that I've done. The Boston gays are so cliquey and so, like, they it's like these the Boston gays are the ones that grew up in Massachusetts, maybe went away to school and came back, or maybe didn't even go away to school. They did school in Massachusetts, and they didn't wanna let anybody else in. So whenever I lived in New York for a long time,
Mm.
and I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Brooklyn, and whenever I'm going to New York, next week for 5 days to see family, I lived in Hell's Kitchen. I'd walk into a bar with a friend, would like, "Hey, you wanna let's meet new people tonight." I'd buy 1 or 2 people a shot, and I'd walk out of that bar with, like, 20 new BFFs. Here you go to a bar, I've tried this with friends. We're like, let's go meet new friends tonight. And I walked into the trophy room, for example, which I like the bar, but I'm like, hey, want to do a shot with us? And the guy's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I'll buy. I'm not asking you to buy me a shot. Like, let's do a shot and like have fun. And it's like blank stare. And the gays here and so many and the funny thing is other people that I meet that live here or that I've interviewed in my podcast say the same shit about Boston. I'm like, "Why is it like this? Why can't we break this cycle?" And I feel like the QT library in Boston could kind of help break that bitchy gay cycle.
Look, I have nothing. I have nothing specific to say about anybody. I don't have a wide enough sample size to be able to speak. I love all my my friends who are in Boston who are gay men, very much. Um, I do think, I think I can speak to a larger thought here, which is just that, like, I'm hyper aware as a, like, cis presenting gay man, like, who also, like, I'm 6'4". I'm like aware that I sort of like walk through the world with a lot
Yeah.
of white privilege, like it just, one thing that I feel like has really always grounded me is trying to think about how I can give back and
Yeah.
how I can leverage my privileges to make the world better, safer, kinder, juster
Yeah.
for people who do not walk through the world with the privilege that I have. Which is to say that, like, this is my call out to the gay men of Boston and also to everyone to like come be a part of this thing. I cannot explain how like soul fulfilling it has been to be in community with like a lot of folks who are not just gay men. And largely this project is powered by folks who are not gay men. At this moment. So like it is a real, like, beautiful cross section of the community. And again, nothing particular to say about any person. I love all of my people who are gay men in Boston, and also like come be a part of this thing that is push you outside of a comfort zone, perhaps.
Yeah. And and the great thing about Boston LGBTQ community, not just the gay men, they love to volunteer. So there's a lot of stuff
Yes.
that's happening in the city where Gay for Good is a volunteer organization.
I
So
was about to bring them up. Yeah. Love
so there's so many like great things. So companies that I worked in Boston have like day of service, and the whole company like that day goes out and does different things for different nonprofit organizations, whether it's stuffing backpacks to help get kids ready, for the school year, or painting a building, or whatever it is, Habitat for Humanity. Like they do all these amazing things. So that's one great thing about Boston. Like I think whenever you do need more volunteers, I think people will really jump at it. So
Yeah. And I think what's interesting and challenging and wonderful about this work is that I think a lot of other organizations that are service organizations are able to say something like, hey, we're packing lunches. Like, this is the activity today. We're all going to do it today. It doesn't take a lot of skill. What's like hard and wonderful about building a library from nothing is that we are still, even 3.5 years later, in a place where we are like asking for people to come in and yes, for like one day opportunities. Yes, you can come table with us. Yes, you can do, we do sort of corporate volunteer events. We do various things like that. But it is also a thing where it's like, this is a really cool opportunity to just get like one step more involved in something where you're like doing a little bit of generative work. We need somebody to just like, somebody who I can say, hey, we need a marketing plan. Like,
Yeah.
just Google marketing plan. You may never have done a marketing plan before, but like the reason that we have a marketing plan now is because 3 years ago, I like Googled marketing plan and then I got a template for a marketing plan and I started plugging stuff in.
Yeah.
Which is to say that like it's a trickier thing for us to give one-off opportunities, but we will have them especially when we have a physical space. But for now, like what we're really excited is people who are just like, they can just like key in like an hour a week or like a project-based thing or just like a little bit of a deeper hook into the work.
So if somebody wanted to volunteer now, they could come to your website and actually start volunteering now. Great.
Exactly. Yeah. We do info sessions in case anyone has like questions and wants to learn more. But if you're like, I'm just like ready to go and do the thing, there's a form on our website. You fill it out. Someone will be in touch right away. There's a whole onboarding process. It's lovely. I just want to say like the thing that I can't emphasize enough about what I'm really proud of about this library is like the vibes are really good. Like everyone's having a really good time making this thing. We have a really wonderful community culture and like there's not a ton of pressure. Like there's a lot of care and thoughtfulness, but there's not a lot of pressure.
Yeah. What has kind of building this space kind of made you, what has it taught you more about community? I mean, this is so, whether it was in Boston or anywhere, I love this whole idea that you're bringing this. And especially in, I don't get political on my show, but all the things that are happening in the United States now with anti-trans bills and this and that and bathroom bills and all this other stuff. And this is just like something that's like such a breath of fresh air that we need. So what kind of has this taught you about community?
Okay, I have several thoughts. The first thought is everything's political.
Yes, everything is, yeah. But I try not to I try to make this show where like we're not talking about, it does happen. I don't want to talk about Trump as much. I have a whole news podcast that I do where I tear the shit out of the whole government and stuff that's happening. But this one I try to like stick to kind of being inspirational, bringing people in you that care.
Totally.
Yeah. Things like
that.
So.
Well, I was going to say that my second thought was you're asking such good questions. I'm so appreciative of these questions. Thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
What have I learned about community? The first thing that came to mind, honestly, is that you're going to fuck up. Yeah. Like that is a real, and I think like I always, like we have not been perfect by a long shot.
Yeah.
for many ways, in many ways. But I think like the thing that I find to be true is that like if you are living by a set of values and you are working towards a goal that is like one of generosity and care, that like even when you fuck up, because you will absolutely fuck up and you will forget to do something or you will not know how to engage with someone in the way that makes them feel the most seen and held, like you're gonna mess up.
Yeah.
But I think you like, if you are building the community in the way that that is, again, so like based on trust and care, then like moving through those moments of mistake and mess up becomes so much easier. And like you then will find that you're better able to like take accountability and do repair for harm that you caused. That's the first thought. The other thought I think is that like everybody's interesting. Like I feel like we do ourselves such a disservice when we like don't ask questions about people. And I think like everyone hears about this project and they're like, oh my God, so like tell me about the books. Like you must have so much to say about the books. And I'm like, that's not it. That's like not the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing for me is that for a really long time, I don't do them anymore, but for the first like 2 years, I would do onboarding sessions. And so I would like every time a new volunteer, which again has been like 350 people at this point.
Wow.
Everybody, we would share a little bit about the library and then we would ask them a little bit about themselves and we would try and place them within the structure of the organization to help out where they best can. But like, oh my God, the stories that people would come to this library with, their reasons, they they would also, yes, a lot of people come to the project who are librarians, but a lot of people are like, well, I work in biology, something. And like, I just needed something to do with my spare time. And like this, that, and the other. I don't know. People just are like, are so endlessly fascinating and interesting. And it's worth asking the questions.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that I would say about community is that gratitude is like the single most important thing that you can offer to people. And we have, the rough structure of our organization is that we have 6 different working teams and a leadership team. And so those 6 different working teams and the leadership team each have their own independent meeting schedules and structures and such. But we have one big meeting every Monday. We call it the Monday meeting.
Yeah.
And it's like where everyone comes together and the vibes are immaculate. The chat is popping off. But we always, always, always end the meeting with 10 minutes of gratitudes. And the structure of the gratitudes is like anyone can say anything that they are grateful for. It does not have to be library related.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be towards a specific person. It can be towards an abstract concept, whatever. That I have never left a Monday meeting like feeling bad, because even if we had to talk about something difficult or something, whatever, because like these moments of gratitude where people are thanking their partners, people are thanking someone who like dropped off some soup for them from the library community that they met on Discord. That gratitude piece is like instrumental.
Have you heard of, you may not have, I don't know what field that you work in, or that you did work in, but in the pharmaceutical world, there is a thing called OutBio, and it meets once a month. You should look it up. There's a guy named Ramsey that runs it, and he does a phenomenal job. I can get you his email if you want it.
Please.
But he basically every month they have a pharmaceutical company will host drinks and kind of appetizers or light snacks, and it's every month that they do this, and it's a different pharmaceutical, and then everybody's invited. It's free for everybody. It fills up because it's through not eBite, but it's through one of those websites where you sign up. But once you kind of hit like I think it's probably 300 people or whatever, then you're either on the wait list. But so as soon as the email comes out, if you want to go, you got to kind of sign up then. But they have speakers come in for every single event. And I think you should try to contact Ramsey to see if you could come up and talk about the QT library at one of these events, because he does it every month, and it really is. It's a fun time. It's all pharmaceutical people, so there's some money there for donations and stuff. But a lot of these people also want to volunteer and want to do things. Because that's just who they are. So it's a weird mix. So there's a lot of scientists, obviously, and researchers, but there's also people that are in corporate communications and people in marketing, and people kind of from across the organization. And you have senior leaders that will come to these things. But it's kind of crazy. Like and people there are like, it's not like the bar scene in Boston where people there are talking and interacting. You're like, oh, I've seen you before, or I've worked with you before at another company, and it's kind of great to connect. But it's a great place if you are looking to get people in the LGBTQ plus community kind of together at one spot to say, hey, we're doing this and you want support. That's a great place to go, just so you know.
I would love that. I would love that connection for sure.
Okay.
Already. The info. And I think that speaks to the number one thing that I always tell people about the library, like what we need, because everyone's like, what do you need? You need money, you need books, you need this, the other. The thing that I have said for 3.5 years, and it's never failed me, is that what we need is for people to know we exist and know that we are not 4 raccoons in a trench coat anymore. We are actually a large organization with we're about to actually hit 3,500 books. We have 3,500 books in our space. We have a space that's not open to the public. But there are 3,500 books, and our team of librarians descends on it every couple of weeks and prepares them for circulation. We built our own, essentially like gay version of the Dewey Decimal System. Yeah. So all the books can be classified in a more sort of hyper-specific, community-specific way. We have built an online digital catalog. There's a lot there. This has been obviously a ton of work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who still hear about it and they're like, oh, that's so sweet. Like you have a couple of books in your bedroom that you like lend out to people. That's so awesome. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's
Yeah.
like super real. And you can get involved or you can give us money or you can X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z, which is just to say that like the number one thing is knowing we exist, sharing it with the world, and knowing we're more than just like a few books on a shelf. We're like a real, at this point, like massive endeavor to make a thing that hasn't existed in this way in a long time.
Yeah.
Exist in the world. And we have lots of other, there are a handful of other queer libraries in the world, the country, like, and they've been incredible partners to us. But
will you move to Boston once this launches?
Probably not, honestly. Like, and I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. Like, I did my 5 years in Boston, one for my master's and 4 for undergrad, and really, really loved it. But like, I'm from New York. I was born in New York, raised in New Jersey, and my parents are back in New York. So like, this is where my family is. This is where my community is. And I guess transparently or vulnerably or whatever, like it is a strange thing. Yes, I have a deep love for Boston. I have family there. I have community there from my time in school. But it is a really weird thing to have been spending like many, many years of my life working on making this thing a reality from my little basement in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And my basement apartment, I mean.
Yeah.
And I think like my dream is like that there's a QT library in every city, obviously. Why not? People often ask, like, when you think about scaling, do you want to like have an enormous collection of 20,000 books? And I'm like, actually, I think like having a collection and that's 5,000 books and a nice space that is functional in every city would like actually be the kind of scaling that feels exciting and important. And like, I think a lot about like build your own library kits.
Yeah.
Who are the connections that I have that I can connect somebody in Idaho to who like doesn't really have access to anything, so that they can take the steps to build their own library.
Well, I think it's fantastic. Like I said, whenever I seen your Instagram post about it, I'm like, I gotta interview this guy. Like, cause I love the vibe. I love like what you're doing. I love that you care about the community and that you want to bring people together in a safe space. Tell me about the, no substance. Is it because of people have substance abuse issues? You want to make sure that's kind of stays out, or what was that?
It's not actually that. No, it's that I think what was important to us was that there are limitations on who can enter spaces that are spaces with alcohol.
I see.
Which is to say that in particular, like young people can't enter those spaces. And
that's right. Yeah.
And one thing that we think about a lot, like I remember, so when I was in school, I was a kids company teacher at the American Repertory Theater's kids company program, which was like the best, one of the best jobs I've ever had in my entire life. And I taught basically theater and creativity classes to kids anywhere from age like 4 to 12. I mean, it was like reading storybooks and then the kids would act it out. It was the most delight. I come from an arts background, a performing arts background.
Okay.
And one thing that was really wonderful about that program was how I met like a lot of the parents, and there were a lot of queer parents who had children or kids who were sort of starting to identify as queer or trans, and had parents who were like wonderfully accepting. Like it was such a formative beacon of an experience. And I sort of had that realization of how amazing would it be if families also had a space to go whenever sort of your connection to queerness is. And like, I also sort of transparently, like I have a very complicated coming out process and like relationship with my family. And there has been a huge amount of repair. And like I'm very close with my family really now.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that was really clear to me when I was coming out, I came out in 2012. So that's 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is to say that like, even in 2012, you were there, but like not everyone who's younger understands how different of a world it was and how much more of a taboo there was. around talking about it,
Yeah.
and any other things. And I think I had this realization where like, I think it's proving hard for my parents to like wrestle with my identity, because like they just don't have resources. They don't have like someone they could talk to about it. They don't have like, they don't know what the books are to like understand parenting a queer child. And that's, I think, also a little impetus for this space is like, if you're a parent of a queer child and you don't know where to begin, this could be a space for you to sort of start exploring that or asking questions.
And kids are coming out much younger now. And, there's, a whole trans youth generation now. Whenever I was in junior high and high school, that never could have happened. Just because where I grew up, also, I grew up in Miami, so that never could have happened back then. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I also live in a bubble in Boston where people are so much more accepting and liberal on things. So I see, but I have cousins and stuff that live in the Midwest, and it's starting to be accepted there now, even too. So it's like I do have hope for the world.
I have a lot of hope, but I also sort of keep coming back to this sense of, we were talking earlier about like, oh, we self-silo in the gay community. We self-silo in general. And like, I often forget how, or rather I'm reminded often how the cultural like worlds of any group, queer people, trans people, straight people, like Jewish people, which, is my cultural experience. It is so like, for my partner of many years is not Jewish. And like, it took me a while to understand that he like really did not have any of the same frame of reference. He did not have any, like, he just literally didn't really know a lot of Jewish people. And in the same way,
so you are Jewish.
I am Jewish. Yeah. Sorry to be.
So it's the same thing with me and my husband. Yeah. I'm not Jewish and he is, and we've been together for 27 years, but learning about even going to Passover dinner, I didn't know what to do the first time I went. I didn't know what a Haggadah was. I didn't know that we had to go around and each read. I didn't know any of this stuff. And now it's 27 years, but I mean, I get it all.
All of that is like, I think I'm hopeful that this is a space that like, allows to break down a little bit of the walls of understanding or siloing that exist. And an early conversation, like 6 months in with someone I knew, I remember her, she's a straight woman, like a straight older woman. And she was very like, well, would I be accepted there at the queer library? And I was like, are you going to be an asshole? And she was like, well, no. And I was like, okay, I don't care. Come hang out with us. Like, just don't be an asshole. Like, we're all theory struggling through this hell of a life together. Like, why don't we at least try and learn a little bit about each other? Because everyone is endlessly fascinating if you just ask them the right questions. Looping it back.
I want to, tell me where you're at with, like, are you even close to finding a place, physical location? And if not, like, do you have a deadline of when you want to have one? What do you need to get that physical space still?
Totally. We don't have like a hard deadline, because one thing that has always been true about this project is that everybody is doing it on coffee breaks and lunch breaks and like in between their day jobs, because it's not like we have like our really big exciting thing that happened on December 1st this year was that we hired our first ever part-time employee, which is like, again, a big step. It's a huge thing, but like so many people are giving hours of their time after work, before work, like on weekends. So it's sort of important to us culturally that we don't say like, this is the hard deadline and we're all going to like burn ourselves out and like grind ourselves into the ground to make it principle. That said, I have a sneaky plan that I think will get us into a space. It's a little sneaky, but a good kind of sneaky that involves sort of direct outreach to a lot of landlords and like people who are in control of spaces in sort of targeted amount of time. And part of what makes that sneaky solution possible is being able to say in an ironclad way, hey, we're like ready. Tomorrow,
Yeah.
if you signed us a lease, which we can afford, we have money in the bank, like if you sign us this lease, we'll move in and we'll make it happen right away. There's not like, 3 years ago, we would have been like, well, we need to get all the books. And now we're like, no. We have all the books. We have the circulation system. We have the catalog. It's all ready to go. So all of that is to say, my dream that I'm trying to like speak into existence, delusion into existence, whatever you want to call it, is to open in summer of 2026.
That'd be amazing.
My dream. It requires me really hunkering down for the next couple of months with my team and like, making it happen. But it feels super possible.
That's amazing. Well, I think the whole entire thing is so great, as I've said a couple of times. I am going to donate after we hang up. So I would ask all my listeners to go to qtlibrary.org. I will put the link in the description of this podcast or video, however you're watching it, and take a look because, again, there's a lot that tells you more about QT Library. It also tells you things that they're doing online. Again, January 1st, I'm looking at it right now. They have Stitch and Bitch from 8 to 9 p.m. So it's after work. It's not like something you have to do. They have Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club virtual from 7 to 8 on January 13th. They have Queer Horror Book on January 14th from 7 to 8. I mean, it goes on, and there's so many things that you could do, as Jake has said, that you could do to help out, to volunteer, to be a part of this amazing project. So go there and help out. It's like, even if you're not in the Boston community, because Jake's not in the Boston community, like this is great for the LGBTQ plus community. And we need things like this. And I think it's so amazing that you got this group together and you're doing this. And I love it that it's in Boston more than anything. So I think that's great for everybody here. So
thank you. And I'll just say, I think as a closing thought, when we ask people to donate, like I've had people who I've asked to donate to the project and they've been like really embarrassed. They've been like, oh, I can only give like $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
I need to like say for the record that my dream for this library is that it has $1 million budget. It is entirely powered by $5 donations.
Yeah.
Like that's actually like really, really something I work towards. I'm not out. I feel like there's a model that's like, go out and look for the people who can give you $1 million and just write it off on their taxes and be done.
Yeah.
Much love. Anyone wants to do that, that's great. I fully recommend doing it. But like, I just want to say that like even the smallest gift of $5 monthly, even the smallest gift of volunteering 1 hour of your time to come like, table with us out on the green at any number of events that we do in the summer. Like, the small things are just as meaningful and important as the big things. So don't be like afraid or ashamed to only give what you can, because that's how this has been made possible in any way in the first place.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely. I'm going to look at the volunteer opportunities too. Like, I want to be a part of this because I think it's so amazing, and I love it that you're doing this. So, Jake, you've been a great guest. Again, go to qtlibrary.org. I will put links also to Instagram and the Facebook page for it in the description, and TikTok, and we'll get people to know about this in the community.
Hell yeah!
Thanks so much for being on, Jake. You've been an amazing guest.
This has been so delightful. You've been an amazing host. Thanks for having me.
If you think this story is important for other people, please share it and also leave a comment and share the story with everybody you know so we can get everybody to know about QT Library. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Check back later for more episodes. Thanks, Jake.
Bye.